the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Stephen Kiama Chai, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Jack Odhiambo, the Associate Dean in charge of Undergraduate Studies, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Jennifer Mushiri, the outgoing Secretary General of ARUA, Professor Ernest in absentia. Then we have the new Executive Director of ARC, Professor Victor Murinde. Yeah. The Guild Senior Policy Officer on International Cooperation, Professor Sin Rollins. Then the UCT Research Chair in Poverty and Inequality Research in the School of Economics at UCT, Professor Muret, seated there. The Vice Dean of Research of University of Groningen, Faculty of Economics and Business, and the Director of Research Institute, Professor Robert Lensik is here. Then we have the coordinators overseer, various nodes. The coordinator overseer, University of Ghana, Legon node, Professor Robert Osei. There, okay. The coordinator overseer, University of Nairobi node, Professor Damiano Manda. And of course, Professor Murray also doubles as the coordinator of the University of Cape Town. Distinguished facilitators, participants, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed. Is it good afternoon or good evening? Let me take this opportunity to warmly welcome you to this official launch of CoRE IPD. The CoRE IPD, I hope you know the full what it means. The Cluster of Research Excellence in Inequality, Poverty, and Deprivation, as well as the opening of the inaugural summer school, which is the main activity of the CoRE IPD. So at this particular time, I want to invite the Dean, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Jack Odhiambo, to come in front. And then after that, he will take over the program and tell us next how we are going. Thank you, Dean.
Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, all the honorable guests and professors. It's really an honor to have all of you at the, now I speak about the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, because the Vice Chancellor will speak about the whole university. It's great to have you pushing the research agenda, particularly on the issue of poverty and inequality, which is something that affects our country. You do it as economists. As philosophers, we'll also have to deal with the issue. So may I have the honor then to invite the Vice Chancellor first and give you his bio. Professor Stephen Kiama is the 8th Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. He holds a doctorate in structural biology from the University of Bern, Switzerland, where he studied under Professor Peter Gar. His PhD marked the culmination of a long journey driven by deep curiosity to expand knowledge. Throughout his academic and teaching career, leadership roles frequently beckoned. By fulfilling these roles, Professor Kiama acquired broad hands-on skills, practical knowledge, and essential competencies in structural, legislative, and regulatory frameworks necessary for managing institutions of higher learning. Over time, he accumulated extensive administrative experience, refined his skills in managing peoples and programs, and established himself as a capable leader. His progressive rise through senior management positions at the University of Nairobi over the past 17 years attests to his leadership qualities. May I invite Professor Stephen Kiama to come and speak to us.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I understand the participants, trainees are drawn from different countries, from Mozambique, from Ghana, here in Nairobi, etc. Welcome here to Nairobi, Kenya, University of Nairobi. I also want to acknowledge the organizers of this conference, the team I just met from Groningen, Cape Town, University of Ghana, and we have just met now. The dean, Jack, faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. This is an important meeting, which is organized by the Cluster of Research Excellence in Inequalities, Poverty and Deprivation. This is a subject that's very relevant at this time, particularly in Kenya. There cannot be a better time than now. Yeah. And therefore, it's an honor and a privilege for the University of Nairobi to hold this inaugural launch of the Center of Research Excellence and Equalities, Poverty and Deprivation. And this summer school, this is the first one, yeah. Yes, a inaugural summer school. Yeah. I believe that the ideas that come from here will inform how we deal comprehensively with the issue of inequalities, poverty and deprivation in Africa. It's not just talking about it, but coming up with a solution that will last. Because if we don't, ahead is looking a little, yeah, is it? Yeah, we must do something. And I believe that for us in the universities, the University of Nairobi, we have to do something and we have to lead it. I extend a warm welcome to all distinguished guests and participants who have gathered here in this important event. The theme of this summer school is focusing on inequalities, poverty, and deprivation. As I said, it will not be more relevant given the economic challenges that are faced by many African countries that are represented here today, and even those that are not represented here. As we witness economic crisis, exacerbated the burdens and the government, it is imperative that we come together to address. Somebody else is also addressing the same meeting. It will be difficult for the audience to choose who will listen. I urge all scholars and researchers gathered here to engage critically with these issues and propose evidence-based solutions that can drive sustainable development and prosperity in our nations and drive real wealth for our countries, because that's where the challenge is, creating real wealth. Yeah. Everybody just, when you see somebody doing something and getting more money, you try to Jack is poor, but now it is the man who has more, you know. But we must create something from outside so that Jack has and the man also has. But what we have been doing now, that's where the problem is. You have this, when you find this person has, it's because others don't have. But I believe that if we come with real wealth, then everybody will have. We continue to know. And so it's something that I believe that you with economics this week have the way to do it. The issue is whether the politicians, those who are involved in policy, are patient enough to listen and take the necessary action the diversity of perspectives and experiences to be set among us should enrich our discussions and lead to innovative solutions that can make a real difference. Reflecting on the successes of the People's Republic of China, lifting over 800 million in 40 years out of poverty, we should find inspiration and motivation to tackle similar challenges in Africa. And indeed, some of you have visited there. If you see what they have done, when they tell you it's not so many generations away. Yeah. Some of them can relate with what was happening before now. Yeah. So it's possible. It is obviously through sustained economic growth, the strategic public investment, and the sound policy framework that we can make significant strides towards alleviating poverty and reducing inequalities. I really have seen some of the reports produced by IDS on this. You see, they produce images of Kibera and the neighborhood of Langata, for example, photos of the same thing. So it's real. And we can do it armed with the knowledge and the drive to succeed. We shall do it. I commend the ARUA Guild partnership, which I'm part of and I've been involved in. And there were other esteemed partners for their commitment to capacity building and collaboration and knowledge exchange in this critical area. And I believe there's one such initiative. The 10-year plan of the research cluster holds great potential for impactful initiatives, including joint programs, training opportunities, and policy engagement that will shape the future of research and policy making in Africa. I want to extend my appreciation to all partner universities who are represented here. That's the University of Ghana, the University of Cape Town, the University of Göttingen, Aarhus University, and the University of Groningen for their valuable contribution to this initiative, including the host, the University of Nairobi. Together, I'm confident that we can make meaningful impacts and drive positive change in our societies. I welcome you all to Nairobi, and I hope that you will not only engage in productive discussions, but also take time to experience the warmth and the hospitality of our people.
Yes, I'm Murray Labrant, and thank you so much to the Vice Chancellor, the Dean, for the wonderful introduction and the context that you gave, and then the formal launch of our CoRE IPD. And what myself, who is the ARUA co-lead on our CoRE IPD, and Professor Lenzing, who's the co-lead on the Guild side, will do is to just tell you, okay, what are we going to do in our CoRE IPD? Or what is the CoRE IPD and our aspirations? And we do have grand aspirations of the sort that the Vice Chancellor was sketching is required to address this key issue in the African context, and intractable to generate solutions, really, to be part of the solution, but as academics doing excellent work and excellent training. So first, just a little bit of information about any of the cores, actually. So our CoRE IPD, which focuses on inequalities, poverty, and deprivation, it's one of 20 research clusters initiated by ARUA and the Guild Research Intensive Universities to address some of the critical global problems, but to combine the strengths of very strong groups of African researchers that have already shown their commitment and their expertise, and the same from the EU side, So the core itself, speaking more broadly now, focuses on the following thematic priorities. They focus on public health, the green transition, innovation and technology, and capacities for science. In order to, these are their thematic priorities looking forward into our grand challenges confronting us right now. The CoRE IPD proposal went into this, the ARUA Guild assessment procedure. A call for proposals was made to convene these groups to address these issues, and our proposal went into the capacities of science component to put together a consortium that really could address these issues and build the capacity. We can't do it ourselves, right? Our research, we need to be really good at what we do, but we have to build a broad base of researchers in a partnership of African and European universities to address this issue, to bring our science to bear, to make our contribution. So the aims of the clusters of research excellence in general, as I said, is to facilitate European universities and researchers in gaining coordinated access and resources and expertise to African similarly, the African universities and researchers in gaining coordinated access and resources and expertise of the European universities. So I'm abusing a little bit the title that the ARUA Guild partnership gives themselves, their byline, is Equitable Partnerships in an Unequal World. That's the byline. And I added in here something in the middle. Equitable partnerships in overcoming an unequal world. So we are in an unequal world, and I'll talk just now about the wonderful, actually, working relationship in CoRE IPD that's very equitable across the European and the African partnerships, because this isn't a time to be distracted with those sorts of things. It's a time to roll up our sleeves and do things collaboratively. But our mission really is to overcome our unequal world. So we collaborate to create a new knowledge that substantially enhances African development. That's the broad mandate. We responded to the call that came out, and Professor Lenzing was telling the Vice Chancellor earlier how we all, certainly the African partners from the African Center of Excellence for Inequality Research, have been working together for a long, long time in our African context, and then the European universities that are central to this call. So University of Nairobi, Ghana, and Cape Town are the ARUA partners on our call. And we have a very long history. As I said, Germano inspired me centuries ago, shall I say. And we've shared a common mission over a long time. And the ARUA framework has really helped us sharpen our contribution. And then similarly, incredible commitments to African development coming from our guild partners, and under the amazing leadership of Professor Lenzing from the University of Groningen, who saw the call and was thinking, okay, but I'm just coming back from Africa and I'm here all the time and I know all these people and we've got the same drive, and maybe we should do something here together. And he initiated the discussion, and we worked incredibly hard together to put the proposal together, because it was not just trying to put together a proposal that would win a grant. It was a proposal for a long-run, 10-year research program, serious commitment of ourselves and our students and our universities to this partnership. And so what characterizes us, even in the process of writing the proposal together, we really did sit down and work out what are we good at, how exactly are we going to make this contribution from our various universities. And this, let me just, so some of us are principle, a strong commitment to long-term cooperation with each other. That principle of equity that's in the value proposition amongst each of our partner institutions. And I really have to say, I just want to give credit to our guild partners, but also to our wonderful ASA partners. It's just been such a privilege to forge this with you. It is exactly that in practice. Strong emphasis on the collection, construction, and analysis of data, especially survey data, to analyze inequality, poverty, and structural change in a very long-run perspective, to locate these problems in Africa in their long-run perspective, even if we're advising into and doing research on very short-run issues that confront us right now. It's a big mistake to confront them in a way that ignores the long-run trajectory. And we've got a great track record, both in ASA, the Nairobi team calls it ASIA. You can take your pick. But we've got a very long-run history in consolidating databases, a very special relationship with our national statistical offices, and making these available to our research communities as the platform for our contribution. And then the Groningen Growth and Development Center has similar very long-run track record. They just celebrated, was it the 50th anniversary of the Groningen Growth and Development Center? And that's how far back it goes, making substantial contributions. Our research expertise similarly is academically excellent. And I'm not speaking about myself, I'm talking about the broad team here. So, but with a particular focus on evaluating, designing and evaluating interventions to make a difference. It's a very skilled thing, and it's a wonderful thing for us to seek to impart to others. So we produce the data, but then we also know how to use it to evaluate these interventions. Our research strengths are in our outstanding multidisciplinary knowledge on inequality and poverty, in particular socioeconomic outcomes such as health, education, food security, nutrition, financial inclusion. We celebrate the fact that we try and do world-class work for the benefit of our people. And as I said before, our focus is on policy relevant studies and methodologies and the impact of our research. We don't stop with the publication of the papers. We enjoy a very privileged relationship with the policy communities within which we work, and we seek to use that. We're viewed as partners, and we're grateful for that. I'm going to hand over to Robert.
So I must mention that when we were waiting to see the Vice Chancellor, Professor Murray found a report, the 2020 was it the poverty report?
Yes.
In the Vice Chancellor's waiting room, which they had published. They were very happy to find it. The next speaker, Professor Robert Lenzing, is a professor of finance and financial markets within the Department of Economics, Econometrics and Finance at the University of Groningen in Netherlands. He currently is the Vice Dean of Research of the university's Faculty of Economics and Business and the Director of Research at the Research Institute called February. Professor Lenzing is an professor extraordinary at the University of Stellenbosch Business School in South Africa, and a resource person for the AERC. He also is a full member of the European Development Network and associated to the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London, the Center of European Research in Microfinance, and the European Development Research Network. Professor Robert Lensing is a member of the steering committee of the NWO WOTRO. You're welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor, Dean, Associate Dean, Head of School, participants, for having me here. And it's really a pleasure for me to tell you a little bit about our CoRE IPD and the cooperation we have in the group and the things we're doing. And I start a little bit by emphasizing what the aim of our CoRE IPD is. And the key scientific challenge to be addressed is how to reduce inequality such that it reduces poverty and deprivation in our people. So this is, I think, one of the most important themes you can do with. That's anyway how I think. And we focus on inequality, but we do not only focus on inequality, we focus on inequality in a way such that it reduces poverty. So today we had a summer school, and we had a lecture of a philosopher who's sitting there, who's also part of CoRE IPD, Professor Frank Hendricks, and he told us a lot about the concept of inequality and poverty and justice, and I've learned a lot, and that for me is a new inspiration to work this group. Maybe more important is just to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do and what we aim to do. So what we try to do and how we try to address our main aim is by designing and implementing joint research programs. We'll tell you a bit more about this later, what the specific research programs are. Initiate capacity building activities. Of course, we started today with the summer school, one of our main activities we're going to explore. Joint masters and PhD projects we want to do. And developing training programs for policymakers, civil society, and private enterprise. So we really wanted, what Professor Murray also said, we really wanted to focus on impact and go beyond only academic work. We want to work together with policy. It is today the official allowance, and it seems as if this is the first thing we do, but that's actually not the case. We started about 10 months ago, and let's see how oh, sorry, something. Can I go back one? So maybe I. Yeah. Okay, sorry for. You see, I'm becoming old. I'm very bad in everything more advanced than PowerPoints. I'm just on whatever overhead sheets. So I'm still coming from that area, writing on the blackboard. Is still what I prefer to do. So going to the things we've done already. So we started about maybe a year ago, writing the proposal first for ARUA and the Guild to be kind of selected as one of the cores. We were successful, and then our hard work started. And of course, one of the main things we wanted to do is to develop a very kind of nice program for the coming years. So what we started with was a kickoff seminar workshop in Groningen, where all the partners in CoRE IPD came together, and we discussed in 2 days a plan for the first year. So what are we going to do in the first year? And it's trying to set up a program for the coming years. And this was, I think, a very lively and a very nice kickoff. We were 2 days together. Most of us knew each other already, but we had a very good cooperation, and we started to become even better friends, and I think that became more and more this year. But it was the first event where we not only were sitting together as partners, but also trying to reach out already a little bit to the public and to others, especially at that time, the University of Groningen, which we advertised a bit. And so we made it a very nice event. As already mentioned by Professor Murray, CoRE IPD is one of the characteristics of CoRE IPD is that we're very strong in data. Of course, Asia, I hope I pronounce it in the right way. I don't know what the Dutch way of pronouncing Asia is. But we in Groningen, we have the Groningen Growth and Development Center, and the Groningen Growth and Development Center had this anniversary, and we've got an anniversary conference this year, and we as CoRE IPD were involved and organized a special session on inequality, poverty, and deprivation at the conference. And I think that was also a very nice opportunity for strengthening our cooperation also with GDDC, but also to outreach to other research and people who are at the conference and to make us more well known. The third real activity we explored this year is the activity we're doing this week. Yeah, so we are very happy to be here with a big group of students. I think we're very happy, especially about the students, the participants who are here or following us. We have a relatively big group of teachers from Asia, from Groningen, and we still have to teach tomorrow, so we're still going on. I don't know whether I can speak from the participants, but I'm at least very much excited about what we're going to do, and we're going to learn from this as well, and we will certainly continue, probably in a similar way, maybe it's a bit different, we will evaluate. Apart from these seminars, conferences, and capacity building activities, we have done a couple of other things. And one of the not challenges we are faced with as a consortium of universities and as a group who is really much committed to start working together, you need to have some funding at the end. So you need to have funds to broaden it and to do a bit more work than without having. So we started actually immediately by writing grant proposals. And we were working together in the group, and it was really hard work. And the first thing we did was we wrote a molecular doctoral network proposal, because we find it very important to try to set up PhD programs and doctoral network together. It was really hard work. We brought it in, and we did that in a relatively short period. And when I started doing this and we're discussing this with Murray and others in the group, we said, we go for it. Everybody warned us, it's impossible to be successful in such a short term, so don't start him. But we started, they were right, we didn't make it, but we're on the reserve list. So actually we did a very good job. So we're almost there. We were in the group at very high rates. We just didn't make it. We're number one on the reserve list. So we're still waiting. Maybe we'll do that. Anyway, if not, we will resubmit the end of this year. And this is a proposal for, imagine, 13 PhD students funded at European salaries. So it's about, if you get it, 4.5 million euros. So it'll give you some idea about how big it is. And the second thing we did was we are part of a very big part of a NWA org proposal in the Netherlands. NWA is in the Netherlands. The way is the science routes by which you can apply for funding. And this is a very big call on the theme of climate change in the global south, focused on Africa, impacts and increased resilience. So we as CoRE IPD are involved in this program, but the entire consortium is even bigger. We submitted a proposal, we worked very hard, and we are now in the stage that we are on the last 3, and will only one proposal be accepted in the end, and we need to go for an interview on the 23rd or 24th of September we with the last three, so it's 1/3 of a chance now. I think that we are at least a little bit better than the others, so we have 50% chance. And imagine this is a program for 6 years. Of course, there's more than CoRE IPD in it, but it is also a very big thing. If we win it, it's about 7 million. So we have this a huge thing, and very much now hoping that we will get the grant, of course. Now, apart from that, it was already mentioned, maybe not. Yeah, it was already mentioned today before that we are, of course, part of the ARUA MasterCard kind of proposal for a collaborative doctoral program in sustainable development studies. And we're eagerly waiting for the outcome by the end of July. And Professor Victor Mulder, who's sitting there, is also in. So very happy to see Professor Victor Mulder. And the last thing we did is we wrote an Erasmus Plus international credit mobility proposal for getting small grants for researchers from the 3 ARUA universities come over to Groningen. And we will hear whether we are successful in the coming weeks. We don't know. But anyway, apart from this, we also did a little bit more. Oh, this is gone. 1, 2, 3. No, so this is, let's see. Okay, so let's go to what our plans for the coming future are and what we actually are already doing. So Murray already said that we are a CoRE IPD, a group with different expertise and different qualities and different universities. So what we decided to do is to try to build up and set up research groups on fixed themes, all somehow related to inequality and all, of course, related to the expertise we have in the different universities. And what we try to do is to make kind of research groups containing researches of the different partners involved in CoRE IPD. I will not go into detail on everything, but I will pick out some of them. We focus on historical determinants of inequality. We think that this is a very important topic. All of the topics are important, but this is a topic which we also have very big expertise here. And this week already, we saw in the summer school part of the things we're going to do. And Professor Equitable, who is sitting there in the middle, she is one of our experts on historical determinants of inequality, and she was teaching this week also a full day on this topic during the summer school, and we're further going to explore much more and set up a research group. Structural change, employment inequality. Structural change is related to this. Asia is also very good in this, and so that's a theme which we think is very important. It's a little bit more a macroeconomic theme, but it's very important. The other things which are meant to, we have quite a few people in CoRE IPD who focus on agriculture development, food and nutrition security, but that will become a separate theme. Climate change and related things. Now, of course, because we're part of this big climate change call, so it's not a big surprise that this will be one of our focus areas. Health inequalities as a separate topic. There's a lot of research going on health inequalities. And the last topic, we want to make a research group on the financial inclusion inequality, which is basically one of my specialization, if I may say. It's one of the topics I work on a lot. This not only shows the variety of topics we're going to deal with, but it also gives a flavor of that we try to make CoRE IPD a multidisciplinary institute. So we realize at the moment we have quite a few economists in the group. What we really want to reach out now, there's fortunately one philosopher also part of the group now, but we really want to make research themes where people from different social sciences are involved. And it's a big task, and it's but we're quite confident that it will work out. What are we doing more? Of course, we will continue with doing capacity building activity. So we continue with the IPD summer school, which we are having now here. And one of the things I think we're very keen on, and myself, I'm very much keen on, is to develop a impact evaluation course for policymakers. Because we really want to make a bridge to policymakers and to outreach. And I think that we have really very good expertise in CoRE IPD on doing this, because we have a lot of people who are highly qualified in doing impact analysis, and we have very strong links to statistical institute and bureaus and policymakers. So we think that this would be I think an activity we try to develop much further in the coming year. Of course, still developing PhD programs. We want to intensify mobility very soon between the partner universities. Of course, we do so already, but not only people who are, let's say, leading the core, but students, PhD students, etc. Try to intensify mobility between the partner universities. Now, I've had many discussions, not on email, but also on online meetings with Professor Martin, the head of the school, on setting up a co-tutel, a agreement of joint PhDs between University of Nairobi, University of Groningen, also with the idea to bring over students to our university. Now, the same we will do, and we have done already. We set up agreements already with Ghana and with UCT, and we really want to try to stimulate researchers, students, staff to come over to Groningen, to Aarhus, Göttingen, and the other way around, of course, as well. And researchers from the guild universities going to the ARUA University and work together on the topic we all like very much. Finally, we of course want to strengthen cooperation with other organizations, other ARUA guilds, centers of excellence in course, other international research centers and universities. I mentioned specifically here also the ARC. We already have, I and others in the group, many of the group have long-run standing relationships with the ARC. And I'm very proud that I even became a member of the program committee of the ARC. So, and Professor Victor Marina and we always make the joke that we became all together. So we started working together when we were just finishing our PhD, Victor. Anyway, so that's also we want to explore further is working together with the Structural Transformation Economic Growth Program, STAG, whom we already have some relation also via GDDC in Groningen. I think I leave it by this. I thank you very much once again for having us here, giving us the opportunity to tell us a little bit about what I think is a very exciting initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for explaining to us the multidisciplinary aspect of the work that you are doing. And we also look forward to the memorandum of understanding or agreement with the Groningen that you have mentioned. We are very excited to have heard that. The next speaker, Sean Rollins, joined the Guild in September 2023 as a senior policy officer focused on international cooperation. His primary role is to support the Africa-Europe clusters of research excellence initiative and advocate for funding for model sustainability. His wider portfolio includes promotion of responsible internationalization, whereby institutions are enabled to assess and balance the risks of their international collaboration with the risks of non-collaboration, as well as association policy for Horizon Europe and for the next framework program. Welcome, Sean Rollins.
Thank you, Professor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. I'll just share my screen. It's a real joy to be able to speak to the cluster for inequality, poverty, and deprivation. I hope that the summer school in Nairobi has been going well. Certainly, the program looks very interesting, and I managed to catch some of the part that Professor Lensink of presentation of the different multidisciplinary approaches that you have planned over the next 10 years for this cluster and the opportunities you're trying to capture. So I will be taking a bit of a step back to look at the initiative as a whole. I can imagine that Professor Ernest Ayeti has given some of this as well, but I will be presenting this from the perspective a bit more focused on the policy context in Europe, which means that there is an increase in opportunities for collaboration between researchers based in Africa and Europe. So the first thing to mention, which I think is quite important, is to say that the initiative that you're part of, that the Inequality, Poverty and Deprivation Cluster is part of, is built on a long-standing stream of work. So that's been, generally speaking, all of the institutions involved have a strong track record of working, of research intensity, of collaboration between the continents. But even at the network level, where the guild, the network that I represent, which includes the University of Groningen, and 22 universities in total around Europe, was established in 2016 and started thinking about started building up its idea of encouraging better collaboration between Africa and Europe within the first year of its existence. And so in a sense, the work that's led to your cluster and 19 other clusters being established last summer in 2023 really started then in 2017 and has been built up through partnership between the networks of ARUA and the Guild. And at the same time, at the very high level of the European Union's Commission and the African Union's Commission, there was efforts going in to start to kind of create that policy framework that allows for better opportunities between the two continents. And so we feel that ARUA and the Guild are ahead of many of our, in a very good space to be able to address all of these challenges that we share between the continents, to be able to understand each other's local challenges and to find an equitable partnership in all of this. The way that Guild and ARUA first started addressing this is really to look at the different principles that need to be, in a sense, honored to be able to make a collaboration work better. Of course, there's lots of examples of good practices over time, but it's fair to say that systemically, the amount of recognition and opportunities that academics based in Africa have been able to have is still far below where we need it to be. I invite you to look at the different policy documents that we have published over the years. But one way that I like to frame this idea, what we're trying to get to in the future, is the idea of colleagues based in Africa and colleagues based in Europe being able to kind of depend on a long-term sustainable being able to call on a colleague in the other continent over the long term, and to have that colleague have to understand what each other's agendas are, so that it's not just a matter of one side pushing for one kind of work happening, but really very much a mutual effort and a mutual understanding. And this is very much reflected at the AU and EU level. So, of course, there's not always a perfect relationship between the continents. We certainly push for political political progress on this to make it to make the relationship as good as possible. But at the AU-EU summit in 2022, some progress was made, and research and innovation was a key way in which it was a key bridge between the continents, which means that there are new emerging opportunities, particularly in Horizon Europe and the Global Gateway. So the Horizon Europe program is one of the largest international funding programs in the world. It runs for a 7-year period, and it has more or less 100 billion euros allocated to its budget. And within Horizon Europe, the same body here in Brussels, where we're based, has included a kind of bridge from that large program to colleagues in at the high level in the African Union, but also opportunities that are available for African partners as well. So on the base level, all researchers based at African institutions are automatically eligible for funding. And beyond that, the thing that we think is really exciting is that there has been this long process to create a joint set of policy priorities that will generate calls for funding projects. These are in these 4 categories of public health, green transition, innovation and technologies, and capacities for science. So actually the cluster that you're part of has links to many of these priority areas, but where we see the primary relation, where actually your proposal presented the primary relation, is in this idea of capacities for science. And it's not just the topics of the research, it's also the way that the research is carried out. I won't go through all of these bullet points now, but a lot of the principles that we were putting forward in our advocacy, that we were hearing from academics like you, that needed to be addressed, these are actually enshrined in the final AU-EU innovation agenda, one which is, so in a sense, our governments on both continents are standing behind these principles. And the more that we are able to demonstrate this in practice, the more that we can kind of maintain that pressure that all of the extra work that goes into doing this research collaboration properly gets recognized and supported. You can find more information about this innovation agenda through the links, and I'll be sharing the slides after the event as well. And it's important to mention, I won't go into too much detail, that what this innovation agenda reflects is a greater recognition in development strategies, both on the African continent and the European continent, that research and innovation is a key driver. So you can see, for example, on the Global Gateway, which is the international, the large program that the European Union has to support projects that address the needs in partner countries outside of Europe. So including, for example, a big investment package for Africa. One of the priorities is high quality education and research. But it's very clear that in each of the other priorities, research is really important as well. And one of the things that we're really pleased about, particularly for clusters like your own, which are obviously multidisciplinary, but have a high interest in economics and in historical determinants and in sociology, is that we have also been able to get a prominent place within that innovation agenda. We always push for the need for social sciences, arts and humanities to be part of any international cooperation agenda. And that is reflected in the final adopted version. It was added in the very last drafts. And so in a sense, the initiative that I'm talking about, the Africa-Europe Clusters of Research Excellence, which includes 20 clusters like your own, is putting into practice this innovation agenda. We already influenced how the final text came to be, with really great insight from ARUA and from the Guild about how the detail and the broad principles that needed to happen. And in a sense, the way that you're set up with a multilateral set of colleagues from different with different capacities across different parts of the continent, working with research and innovation excellence as the driver, but integrating education, mobility, and capacity building, all of this work has been designed to align with that innovation agenda. But the really great thing about it is that it is coming from academic choices that you have made about what you see as important to push forward your topics of interest. And it also comes with institutional support from University of Groningen, University of Nairobi, and many other partners. All of the partners are putting in what they can and what they need for the contributions that they're making in the proposal. And that means that it is, in effect, going ahead of the policy and taking that risk and showing how important it is to kind of make a commitment to a 10-year long-term plan. And we think that that is already having an effect in leveraging funding. For example, the MasterCard program that Professor Lensing just mentioned as well. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about your cluster. I'm sure you've been hearing plenty about it already, and there's already been a great presentation about it. But I wanted to point out the ways in which your cluster addresses some of these key principles that are reflected in the Africa-Europe core, the ones that we are trying to kind of enshrine and encourage and facilitate you to achieve. So first of all, it's driven by scientific excellence. Of course, we want to make an impact in society, but the key driver, the main motivation is to reach new frontiers in understanding of the topics that you've chosen to follow. Of course, a lot of that understanding will have a greater impact in society, we believe, specifically because it's driven by excellence. But it's not the case that development is the main priority and research is kind of tagged on to support that. You know, the importance of your curiosity is really built into it, and that's why there's academic freedom in these clusters. You should be multilateral and inclusive, which I think is already clear from the map that was included, and the way in which you're interacting with policymakers, interacting with different parts of society, not just the academic sector. And it should be equitable. Of course, that's not necessarily an easy thing to achieve, but over a 10-year period, we think we've given ourselves a better chance of building that trust. And of course, it's also building on top of a lot of existing networks. Then that long-term focus, I think I've already mentioned, and the link to the societal challenges identified by policymakers, I already spoke about with the Global Gateway. So you would have heard already the way in which that scientific excellence is reflected in your cluster with the different interdisciplinary themes, for example, and the different expertise that you're all bringing to a complementary integrated agenda. There's the different partners involved. There's the diverse teams that you've got, the commitment you've made to co-designing and making joint decisions and being transparent with each other. I mean, I think it's very clear, especially in your work, which is sort of connected to economics, that the Sustainable Development Goals are really driving a lot of the work you're doing. And the long-term focus also, I noticed in your proposal for this cluster, has even a very specific disciplinary area to it, because it's not just the operation of a cluster that is benefits from being long-term. It also adds that longitudinal approach, which is so important to improving the understanding of what you're studying. And in terms of what is happening overall for the 20 clusters in total, we're trying to do as much as we can to support the clusters in general, but from the secretariats of ARUA and the Guild, our main responsibility is taking information about what you're doing to be able to influence policymakers. But we are providing some facilitation and support through, for example, the conference that's happening in Stellenbosch, where you'll be able to meet in person again and also meet other clusters, supporting the development of the practical principles of how equitability and things like authorship or proposal development practices and things like that should take place. We're facilitating the governance meetings between the institutions and the co-lead academics. And we're providing kind of regular structures for you to use within your work to understand who does what, and also for your institutions, that's in the action plan, and also for your institutions to understand what your achievements and challenges have been along the way. We do provide some support in terms of explaining what funding opportunities are arising, but we also really acknowledge and recognize the great expertise in the European and African institutions, and they're the ones who are closest to you to be able to support you with the kind of day-to-day work of capturing funding. Of course, we want to help as much as we can, but we want to be able to do that fairly across 20 clusters. So we try to give a more of an overview in the presentations that we'll give in the conference, for example, in Stellenbosch, but also in the documents which we circulate. And there's been so much that's happening. It's very hard to summarize it here in this first year of the clusters. I think my quick kind of takeaway really is that there's been so much motivation that I've seen, so much work that's happened from the very start, because I think the demand for this kind of collaboration being set up so that you can go work on the things that you want to work on can be properly facilitated and can be done more predictably as well. We already heard about all of the opportunities that your cluster is aiming for, so I think it speaks for itself. But from our side here in Brussels, we've been doing events, we've been speaking to people in the Commission. They are really noticing what we're doing, and that's adding to the leverage that our initiative builds for our research and our institutions to be able to find more opportunities. And our vision is really that your cluster and the other 19 clusters are able to demonstrate what good practice is in practical terms, to really get outputs that improve society as well. And so that you have the best possible chance to participate in the opportunities that exist. We hope that the work that you've put in already to build these links together means that when these opportunities, when you put through these submissions, like the ones that were presented earlier, you've done a lot of the lead work so that you can really put a strong proposal in with the right partners, having built it together. It's not just something that you have to go from 0 to 6 gear all at once. And we think that this is going to have a virtuous circle effect of more participation leading to better opportunities and more funding instruments over the long term. So I would encourage you to have a look at our cluster's website, where you can find out more information about your own cluster, but also all of the other clusters, where you can also get in touch with the co-leads of the other 19 clusters as well. And that's the end of my presentation. I hope I've done okay for time. If there's any questions at all, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Sean. The presentation has been very clear, and we are grateful. The next speaker is Victor Murinde. Professor Victor Murinde is the new Executive Director of the African Economic Research Consortium. He joined the AERC from the School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS, University of London, where he served as Professor of Global Finance. Professor Murinde is a distinguished financial economist with more than 25 years experience, post-PhD, mainly involving university research and teaching, but including senior level stints of practitioner, policy, and consultancy roles for governments and leading international organizations. He enjoys fundamental knowledge of the AERC, its mandate, structure, and operationalization of its strategic plan, having previously served as the programs committee, and across the research, training, policy, and outreach components of the same. In his scholarly endeavors, Professor Murinde has contributed over 120 research papers in economics, banking, and finance topics. He was also the founding director of the African Development Institute at the African Development Bank from the year 2011-2014, and has carried out major consultancy projects for a range of international organizations. Professor, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Dean, for such a glowing introduction. All protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so delighted to be invited to this very wonderful occasion. And I will just make 3 quick points. One, on the congratulations. The second, I'll talk about the ERC briefly. And the third point, I will be just talking about how the ERC is going to we get involved with the big stakeholders here who are present here. On the first one, I really want to congratulate the partners here for launching this very important CoRE IPD program. It's very fundamental. It's a very fundamental project. For many people here who have been involved in research, especially trying to get research collaboration between the global north and the global south, this is very fundamental. And they see here the great universities in Africa, Ghana, Cape Town, Nairobi, working again with the other global big universities, Aarhus, Groningen, and Göttingen. It addresses many of the problems many of the challenges and problems we face in the economics profession today. Yesterday, I came back from Ghana, where a group, about 12 of us, spent the whole day brainstorming on what is happening in the economics profession in Africa. And addressing some of the questions there. For example, does the economics profession have an African problem? We are looking at the productivity of researchers on the African continent. We are looking at the role we as economic researchers in Africa play, especially in leading thoughts, in the editing mainstream journals, in the producing the highest quality of work, research work, in translating our research into policy, and also in leading the trends in training in new methods, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other new innovations that are shaping the developments of the economics profession, and wondering where are we. At the end of the discussion, we resolved, and with the many of the supporting organizations to found what we have been talking about for the last 20 years, was active in setting up the Econometric Society Global and African region for many years. The Economic Society, which was founded in 1928, did not have an African region. It was Asia, Europe, and nothing on Africa. And this was introduced, I'd say, 5 years ago when we charted the African region that is part of the Economic Society Global. But then we still have a number of challenges. Some of them we have tried to address, like having young people participating freely in the annual meetings of the Economic Society African region, and then the Global Congress every 5 years, and together with the our other fellows in the society, especially Tim Besseler, when he was president of the Economic Society. We simply provided from fellows that enables the young people to travel to these congresses. But we are still far away in terms of what we can do. And I think this is why I think that this project being launched today is actually very fundamental in making sure that it provides facilities for great collaboration, for high quality production of economic research. So I really congratulate you very much. And I have no doubt that, of course, the caliber of people involved, both from Nairobi, Damiano, the group, and also from Jose, and others from Ghana, and also Mare, and of course, Robert was not exaggerating when he mentioned that we have grown all together. We started collaborating with, when we were PhD, post-PhDs, we just completed our PhD at the same time. And I remember sending a letter to University of Groningen, but I thought Groningen was in Germany. So many congratulations. And then I can speak briefly about the African Economic Research Consortium, and I can see quite a number of familiar faces here, even among young people who are undertaking the collaborative master's program and CPP under the ERC. I can also see the mentors of the ERC, Professor Yamono Mabo here, and Damiano Corundu, and of course, Robert and others who are playing a very important role in the ERC. We do three main types of activities, of course, training for master's programs and PhDs and University of Nairobi. I was here last week, Martina, with my group to talk about what do we need to do with the ERC. So we are very much in sync in terms of working with the universities around the continent, starting with the University of Nairobi, of course, here at Kenyatta University and others. But we're gonna transform a little bit of the way we do our training, involving introduction of training in new methodologies, and also helping governments in terms of the demand side type of training for governments, especially where they have the demand, where we can weigh in. But we also have a large research output, which currently involves thematic research, groups A, B, D, and E. And for many years, I was chairing Group C. Robert was one of the resource persons in Group C in my group. And of course, Demiana has been playing a role. Jamano in Group A, that's right, and Group A. So a number of people here. Now there is also collaborative research. Now, we are now in the middle of writing a new strategic plan for the ERC, which will run 2025 to 2030. And we have a number of options. Option one is no change, status quo remains. And that will not be an option. The other option will be reinventing the ERC to match the modern times. Look at what type of training needs to be done and where there is need. Looking at the data we have, where there has been a high degree of attrition in training, especially female PhD students, new areas of training necessary and new forms, maybe also short-term type of training. And of course, in the research dimension, looking at how we can create working groups that can enable focus on the key challenges facing Africa and how young researchers can be mentored on how to address those, frame the questions and use the right methodology to address those. And then another tier of very senior researchers across African university continent, twinned with the most senior researchers globally. And so then you have the kind of trying to get high quality productivity in terms of the interaction between the most senior researchers of the African continent and the most senior researchers globally on making things addressing that. And that would be kind of another tier. And then the involvement, new involvement in with the policymakers, practitioners, and civil society. And I think looking at the recent developments we have across it will be a C. Or even as a resource person or group chair, am I a member or not? I don't know. I was not on the website. I was not anywhere. I just belonged to come, chair group C, and then go back. And I think the membership structure is long overdue. It will be one of the priorities we put in place to ensure that you have live membership and the fellowship that we're part of the ERC family, and identifying the ERC much more productively. Then my final point will be just to say that we are delighted at the ERC to have been invited to join this ARUA big bid fingers crossed with this man, because it will provide a step change. Yeah, just like you are doing this equation that has got the error, you just step change in terms of the training, especially in PhD training, and also the groups that need to be stabilized, including female trainees, and trying to reduce the amount of attrition. And we really look forward. We shall give it every chance. We shall give it every energy required to make it work. And of course, Robert had a point when he said, when you are just in the semi-final and you don't get it, you just don't give up. You have just tried various alternatives of achieving the same objective, but maybe via a different type of financing. We subscribe to that view. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been great.
All protocols observed. Good evening once more.
Good evening.
Okay. So we have now reached a very crucial stage. I don't know whether I introduced myself when I was starting. So my name is Martin Oleshe. I am the chair of the Department of Economics and Development Studies here at the University of Nairobi, where we have the ASEA, African Center of Excellence for Inequality Research, located. So we have now reached a very crucial point where we want to give vote of thanks for all these that have taken place. And may I start first of all by sincerely thanking the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Stephen Kiamu, for first of all approving this summer school to take place here at the University of Nairobi, and also having supported us all through in the initial stages. Then secondly, I also want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Jack Odhiambo, who is here, for gracing this occasion. Also to thank Associate Dean in charge of undergraduate studies, Professor Jennifer Mushira. I don't know whether they know you, or you want to stand this in. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank Professor Wanjiku Mukabi Kabira. Why we are thanking Professor Wanjiku Mukabi Kabira, and she's today represented here by Dr. Dorothy Njiraini, seated here in front. I think you also have it here. And the reason why we are actually thanking her is that she's the director of the African Women Studies Center. And of course, they sponsored us, actually, a number of girl child who are here, who are attending this particular summer school, were, generously sponsored by Professor Wanjiku Kabira, who is the Director, African Women Center. And of course, we really appreciate that. And she's represented here today by, she's also the chair of the Department of Library here at the University of Nairobi, and she's my colleague chair. And you take the word back to her that although she was not able to make it, we really appreciate this. I don't know why the girl child is not clapping. Thank you very much for that. And I also want to appreciate the outgoing Secretary General of ARUA, Professor Ernest Ayete, of course, the brainchild of all this. Then other appreciation also goes to the new Executive Director of African Economic Research Consortium, Professor Victor Murinde, who is here. Really, all of us, I am a beneficiary of African Economic Research Consortium from the master's program up to the PhD program. I was also in the CPP program, you know, and a number of our students are there. But again, I want to overemphasize what Professor Victor Murinde said, that more scholarships are actually coming, and we discussed a lot about it. And again, the girl child will be the beneficiary here, because they will be getting 70% of the scholarships, while the male will actually be getting 30%. We are actually working on that. So encourage the girl child to come and do economics. We will start mentoring them, courtesy of the African Economic Research Consortium. But also, the same is also happening because we also have a dual doctoral degree program, you know, between the University of Nairobi and the University of Groningen, where Professor Robert is here. We are also following it very keenly, and more scholarships are coming, and you'll be able to tell you. So let me also thank Professor Sin Rollins, who is a Guild Senior Policy Officer, actually focusing on international cooperation, for the presentation that you made. I also take this opportunity to thank Professor Murray Lebrand. Yeah, I remember when we were in Cape Town, you know, and of course, Muna Shifa here. And then let me also thank, of course, the Vice Dean for Research at the University of Groningen, of course, Professor Robert Lenzi, for, of course, a very good lecture given. And of course, we have also been corresponding on other issues, the dual degree program, a dual doctorate program. Of course, the first phase involved financing students who are actually doing the climate adaptation. Yeah, but more are also coming for economics. I think we talked about that. Yeah, of course, there again, the girl child might benefit a lot. Yes, so I also want to thank Professor Robert Osei. Professor Robert Osei is here, and of course, he's one of the coordinators of the ASEA University of Ghana. We have also been in this journey for some time. I remember us coming to Ghana and climbing. There's a place that we climbed a bit, moving upwards, and yeah. So let me also take this opportunity to also thank Professor Damiano. And I want to thank Professor Damiano, who is actually the coordinator of the ASEA at the University of Nairobi. He has really worked so hard on this. In fact, most of the time I used to pass by his office and I find that he's working up to late. In fact, this entire process started early this year, and really Professor Damiano has put in a lot here. Then, in terms of the facilitators, I also once more want to thank Professor Murray again for facilitating the session on growth, poverty, social mobility, and inequality in Africa. Really enjoyed it. And also thank Professor Jamano Mwabu. Professor Jamano Mwabu is Professor Emeritus here at the University of Nairobi. And I can say with a lot of confidence that Professor Jamano Mwabu is our mentor. Prof, sorry if I just ask you to Duati Maina Karaoke from the World Bank Group for facilitating international poverty measurements. And then Dr. Francis Dompai, who actually for also facilitating some of the sessions. Now, my appreciation now goes to our dear participants who are here. Of course, we are very happy to have you around, and then you note that you are actually the pioneers of this summer school. We had participants from South Africa. Just raise up your hands. Participants from South Africa, we want to appreciate you for enduring all that. I know it wasn't easy. You go through all those starter and economic models. Participants from Ghana. Ghana, we must be having many because we have participants from Ghana who are staying here at the University of Nairobi and those who traveled also. Participant from Mozambique. Thank you. Benin. Thank you very much. And of course, dear participants from Kenya, Nairobi here. Where are they? Yeah. yeah. Thank you very much. So we want to thank you for sincerely, and of course, you take pride in the fact that you are the pioneers of this summer school, and more will be able to come. As you have seen, it is not only summer school, we also have joint researches that will be done, and a number of you are actually going to be involved. I also want to thank the University of Nairobi Corporate Affairs Office, led by the Director, John Orindi, and Esther Nekesa. I don't know whether she is here or she has already left. And the entire ICT team. You have done a very marvelous work. Can we clap for that? The ICT team have been here guiding us through all this process. We thank you very sincerely. Last but not the least, I also want to thank the team from the Department of Economics and Development Studies. The Department of Economics and Development Studies, University of Nairobi. They have done a lot of work. I remember this process started earlier in January. Start by thanking David Wanjui, who is the Senior Administrative Assistant. Then Ms. Phyllis Karaoke, who is our Executive Secretary. Phyllis, you are there. Please just greet them. You have done all this paperwork. I think you are seeing a lot of paperwork moving up and down, and Phyllis' name was there. Mary Deuri. Mary, do we have Mary here? Okay. Francis Nyaga. Okay, that's the team from the Department of Economics. Jackson, not here. Martin Wafula, I know you must be somewhere there. Again, just wait for them. Yeah, you have done a good work there. And then we also have, as a department, we are also mentoring interns. Mentorship is key to our department. And we have 3 interns who are at the secretariat checking the register here. I'm sure all of you must have interacted with them. One of them is known as Faith Mengesa. Are you here? Or they're outside? Dennis Mugambi. Okay. And Faith Kendi, we thank you very much for the efforts that you have put into this. And I think I have, thanked everybody. I don't know whether there is anybody I have left. Yeah. This is a big problem. Hajira, where are you? Hajira.
Sorry, I'm monitoring the Zoom in the other venue. Yeah.
Ajira, really, we are really very grateful for the work that you have been doing on this. We have been coordinating on this for, very, very long time. And of course, we have also been with you at UCT. We thank you very much for the effort that you have put into this. And we are really very grateful. I don't know whether we have left any other person. If we didn't recognize you, we hereby recognize you also for the good work that you have done, and every other person who actually participated in the success of this summer school, as well as the launching of CoRE IPD. We thank you most sincerely, and may we give ourselves a round of applause.